have domain knowledge in specific aspects, right? Specific modules, specific competencies. So I will go through this diagram, which is called IT flowcharts, and there's several flowcharts here that describe certain facets. And now, what is important, what we want is documentation is a prevention of risk. So the more documentation we have and the more accurate it is, the more we prevent risk. If someone doesn't know, someone is confused about something or certain processes, they can come here and check that out. Okay, this is the project life cycle. This is the life of a project from birth, death within the company. It starts in sales, it gets sold, it goes through several processes before it gets sold. In fact, there is a software called Pipedrive. Okay, so this is a outline of the project process as we have today. Our company, more or less, is a construction concern, right? So it is geared around the construction project entities. What most of what we do is construction projects, construction project entities, and their life cycle is what is the core business of this project. So to that end, the key area to know in a construction project is um, the, the status of a project at any given time. And the most important metric of a project status that is relevant for management and operational impact is how much time is left to be used on that project to be finished. Because then I know what is the total amount of time that's going to be used. I know if I am within budget, outside of budget, if everything is going as expected, or something is going wrong. In a business, more or less, this is what you care about. Is something going as expected? If not, is going positively or negatively? If it's positively, great. Negatively, that's a problem. So to that end, we need to understand how this project process works, which is outlined here. The project lifecycle is everything from life to afterlife, a birth to afterlife in the project cycle. It starts with sales. That also goes through several processes within our sales CRM system. And once it's done that, it goes into the project management, project engineering stage, where the plans are made, the resources are arranged, and the yeah, the goods and everything else is ordered, and the project is ready, set to begin. Installation is the actual execution phase when you do the project, when you install the project, do what is necessary to finish the project, and then you have the final stages where you are doing end documentation, when you are doing, for example, testing. It could be basically when you are making it, preparing it for delivery and final billing to customer. And then once that's done, then you have post-delivery service. So once it's in production to the customer, you may do service out of pocket for the company or on a paid basis service for the for the for the project, different project entities. Now this is an operational document, but this here is a technical IT flow diagram to show how this operational process maps onto the different IT systems we have today. Right, so I can just close it for now. Yep. So as you can see, each of these defined processes are mapped, color-coded in different bubbles. This is sales, this is project engineering, installation, final stages, and service, post-delivery service. Within this diagram, you can find these different support systems developed in-house. they are color coded based on which status they are in. Uh, yes, which status that they are in. And for example, these are design softwares that is supported in the early project uh, offer generation. When you're selling a project, you have to create offers and create plans on how you're going to complete the project, how you're going to build the project, right? These are the support tools for that to give cost and design estimates. And then within each bubble, you will find which software is actually being used in a bit more greater detail. We can show the transition structure here. Um, Yeah, this is like transition structure. A project starts in Pipedrive, then gets created in the three different systems, but all three different systems are used to some extent within this stage. And then here you can see some under stages in each stage of the project defined. And you can see which softwares you use and which, if you open these bubbles, you can see which project statuses are important in which systems. The systems are color coded based on which project they refer to. Pipedrive, is it an automation status, triple text, Sunflow, or is it Google Suite, Google Workspace? Yes, right. And then you can see the overall transition state here. Also, in general, you can see which role is responsible and relevant in the different stages. For example, sales engineers, they're relevant for sales more or less. When you're doing handover to operations from sales, the project manager and the department manager is responsible for a variety of tasks. If you open these bubbles, you can actually see here a documentation outlining the responsibilities the different members have. Open this, you can see this here. Right. Now, if we were to go sequentially through these systems, you can see how this process can unfold. The project starts at its life cycle, as mentioned here, in sales, right? And sales goes through multiple processes. It goes through screening, then estimation. There's technical design calculation being done, and then changes based on feedback from the customer or whatnot before a contract is won and signed. This is our sales CMS Pipedrive that the sales department uses. You can see that here. It goes through all of these different stages to indicate which uh, work is being currently done for this lead, as we call them. Projects are not won yet, thus they are called leads because we have not and potentially may not win any money on the work being done. Here, when a project reaches a for calc distributed to calculator stage, an operation occurs that automatically creates a template a folder based on a template folder for that project, which includes all of its necessary documentation in in a Google Drive folder. It creates a project entity in Sunflow, our project management software, our ERP, and TripleText, our accounting software. In fact, I can go through a bit of a background on the different softwares here. This is an automation relationship diagram. It shows the different relationships the different main softwares have with each other, maintained through our automation infrastructure, which are third-party processes hosted on low-code, no-code platforms and on uh, custom developed scripts hosted, for example, on some of our cloud infrastructure providers, AWS, Azure, and whatnot. Here you have Pipedrive, our sales CMS system, which is here. Here you have Google Space, which is basically the Google infrastructure. It's a document management system for us, but also a communication system, which you can find here. many people are familiar with this. Sunflow is our project management tool, which you are familiar with, and TripleText is our accounting software, which you can see here, which where you can report hours and where you can report hours and yeah, get your salaries and whatnot, expenses and whatnot. Sorry. And then we have Multicase, which is our warehouse management software, which you can see right here, where you can orders and whatnot. Everything is here. Now, all of these systems are interconnected, as I mentioned, through automations. So data conversations are constantly occurring between them based on certain logics as defined in this diagram. And this is very important to keep note of. But we can look into that in further detail as we go through the life cycle. But again, to mention, that first thing was that trigger that created the project entities across all the three different systems. Why is this important? Well, remember, we have multiple systems, but they all often track like individual project entities, right? So the project entity here will correspond to project entities here, here, and here. So it's important that they are connected in some way or another. In our company infrastructure, the Sunflow project ID, as you can find here within the URL and listed within the details of the project, is that central ID to reference between the different systems. Much like not different to a foreign key in a database table. Uh, right, and we can see that listed here that when a status is set to, sorry, uh, for the when your resource division is set, more details can be seen here if you go to the individual uh, Google Sheets, which actually goes through the detailed relationship specifications on when the different triggers are happening in Pipedrive. You can see that, here, a project folder is created based on a template, a project in Sunflow is created, and a project in TripleText is created. It was previously created as an offer entity to capture more features, so that we can be able to track, the cost of a project even before it's won, but this was deprecated due to difficulty with maintaining usability with end users, because that's the important thing we have to balance. As you guys are aware, end user comfort and willingness with system and business needs. Right. Okay. Now, once it goes through the life cycle here, again, it sometimes it will use our internal developed systems to do part of the design process, planning process, technical calculations. The automations is what is responsible, as is visible in this diagram, for the creation of and maintenance, syncing of data across the different systems. And once it's passed to its final stage and it is considered to be one, it's ready. It will be here, a project will be marked as one. Okay, and then the corresponding statuses in our project management software will be updated to reflect that this is a one project. It'll go to post sales so that a human entrant, human operator can manually set it to resource division so that someone in the operational side can distribute this to the appropriate resource, a project manager, for example. I'll have to connect to that later. Yes, right. Okay. Now, a lot of data is already had here at this point, but the data quality here is not very great because it can often go and become changed because this is doing a sales process and sellers are not the best maintainers of data. So the initial data exists here, but then the quality is not high, so it is not captured for our ML implementations, or in fact for any kind of implementations. Right, but During this process, as defined, we do create a Google Drive folder, which has a lot of core documentation relevant to this project that is based on a template that is later filled out as needed. Now, one of the most important of these is the budget document, which is a complex uh, standard budgeting sheet, standard budget sheet, as we can see here. And the data quality here is of higher confidence because this ultimately are the specs that the project is built according to. Now, this is also taken as the truth in our ML implementation, uh, in a sense. Okay, so here you, as you guys know, here you have like this uh, Bichette revision 1 or 2 or 3, whichever is the last one in green. There's a lot of technical details here on the specifications and the costs, what is going to be used, what is not going to be used, which ends up filling tables, to summarize the data under different accounts, under different cost accounts in our accounting system, and under different, for example, it also calculates summation of estimated hours to be used in different activity categories and the different costs and different uh, kind of items. You know, this is all data that is later transferred to our ERP system Sunflow, as you know, through an automation integration. Okay, once this data arrives in Sunflow into the different areas, the key is the different details fields, as well as the budget fields under the different accounts. This indicates this, for example, may belong to the solar panel account, it may belong to the delivery account, it may belong to the training account, the estimated cost for these different accounts. So title is not as important when we have the account numbers. And also this data transfer method fills in addition, the goods cards. So these are like ordering of items to our warehouse management system, as I just showed, is done through this module in the project detail page in Sunflow. And to track the future orders, we during this import process, these get auto-populated. So even though it's not sent yet, it is stored here, so we can see it is stored here, so we can see what may be expected of the different items SKUs in the future, which, as you guys know, is um, is summarized in this table here for the different items. And when they are consumed, sent to our warehouse management system, they're deducted, so they become 0 again. So we mostly see it for the future expected um, demand. Okay, and in the project planner, of course, we also um, fill in the budgeted information of the expected estimated hours to be used in the different activities for a sum written right here. Okay, this is all done during this stage by the sales engineers. It is listed in their documentation requirements. These requirements are built to capture most effectively and efficiently the most data possible uh, for the data fields that we care about that will later become ML features. Right. Another thing of uh, uh, interest is that there are control steps in every different stage. What these are is that this is different departments. This is accounting. This is IT operations. This is safety, and this is operations, general company operations, construction operations. They do different checks and different stages for different things as listed here. This is also to improve compliance, especially in data related activities, but also operational activities, for example, document fill out and such. Yeah, so it's governance uh, responsibilities. Yeah, and they're all color coded again based on the system that they refer to. This is Sunflow ERP. This is Pipedrive Sales CMS, as you can see. Once the project is won and ready to be transitioned over to operations, the process you can see here, the project is set to from post sales, which is automatic when the project is press one in Pipedrive, to resource for dealing, which is division delegation of resources. At this point, using the list viewer here, a department head can see all the projects in his department, in his department that is waiting to be delegated some resources, and he can do it accordingly. This is to ensure that there's an assembly line like flow to ensure that work is being done. Right now, we don't have email reminders for this, but we have for some others. But this is the expectation. Compliance has increased a little bit. I believe if we look right now, compliance. Oh, sorry, it's because I picked a specific project manager. Yeah, there's 22 projects across the company waiting for resource delegation. We want to leave it down to 5 or 4 at any given time. So this is something that needs continuous work on. Okay. Now, once it's at this point, it is delegated to a project manager. This is when it's like once the project manager receives it, their responsibility is again to check the different fields, make sure that they're filled in. We have UI elements to indicate if very critical fields are not filled in. Otherwise, project manager is responsible for verifying that the work has been done and not sent back to sales. They're incentivized to make sure that it is filled in because their KPI metrics that reflect the job performance is actually based on, to some extent, on completion rate of critical information. We have a document, import fields, I believe. Viktiga. Yeah, we have a documentation that indicates the score, the important fields, and then the score of these different fields based on how important they are, which calculates out a available score for field entry. Okay, once that and at this stage, a control is done by IT operations to make sure that there's no like the key detail here is that the triple text connection configurations are properly done. No mistakes have been done on this front because there were some challenges with this. Right, and then it transitioned on to when a project manager does their detailed project engineering steps. In this step, the project manager needs to calculate, the plan of the project, the string plan, the engineering plans. He must, fill out important documentation, safety documentation, compliance documentation, and whatnot. This is something we also need to track because failure to do so can cause major problems to the company, work stoppage, major fines, even risk of losing licenses altogether for the company. So these are done here with proper categories associated with them. We our goal is to make sure that they use these categories and certain documents we know they need to upload with certain documentations, and if they don't, we send an email reminder to them, both for a documentation with missing categories and for important fields that needs to be filled out. To increase compliance, including many other methods. Okay, Right. Um, Planning. Once all of these detail engineering steps are done, in this step there is multiple controls done by both the operations team for the documentation, the um, the accounting team on no mishaps with the accounting setups, and of course with the safety department to make sure that they have done the compliance documentation for safety. Once all of that is done, and all of this is done both in triple text, Sunflow, and in the Google Suite. This documentation is in the Google Suite. Sunflow is obviously the core system that they use, and triple text have to be configured accordingly. The support systems here are a multi-case and yeah, multi-case and automations. How? Because they put in this state, they may actually start sometime sending goods to the warehouse. So we track that just so some of them want to reserve goods ahead of time. But once all of this is done, they go into this other stage, which is planning and go through with the installation teams. So the installation manager at this point will, so here they have defined the project scope, what resources they need, etc., etc. Now they need those resources allocated to them. That's why they are sending an order to the warehouse to get some goods. They are asking um, they're asking the installation manager to delegate some resources to them. They will how it we hope to have it happen is that they set a project start and end date. They hope, especially a project start date, and then they will set the status as waiting for planning, so that those guys can come and see which projects are in there, waiting for planning log, so that they can plan them, and then they will plan these guys, accordingly on the different systems, and that can be visible in that can be visible in the project detail page. Okay, planner. It should be visible here as we know. When if anyone is planned, then the records should show up here. Okay. And so at this point, um, which resources are allocated is starting to fill up, both for goods resources, budget resources, uh, manpower time resources, right? Once that is done, the project will commence proper go through. And then we can see that here. This is the actual installation phase. Now, maybe we can go into our automation step here and take a gander of what has happened so far. Now, in Sunflow, the system will have sent an order to multicase. Yes, I can show you guys multicase right now. Okay, multicase is here. Um, as you can see. Okay. You can see the different. Okay, multicase is here. Multicase architecture. I can discuss this a little bit here to understand how multicase works. Multicase is a remote VM hosted system. Multicase is a remote VM hosted system that's hosted on a server by a company called Ivor, but the um, service provider for the actual software is called Multicase. It has no inbuilt internet communication ability. So what we have done is we have built um, scripts that within the remote VM that reads from the multicase database and writes to the multicase database and communicates with our APIs based on certain predefined logic. This way, we can get an extract on daily updated list of all the available goods and their stock numbers. So multicase is hosted on a remote VM, and it it the this way we're able to get a list of all our items, the list that you see here, list of all all the items that is available in multicase and their stock numbers, and we're able to send orders to multicase. We're able to send orders to multicase to be processed within the system as such right here. Yes. So the warehouse can then use the system and dispatch goods and updates different informations and whatnot. Okay, that gives you a bit more information about multicase, and there is some complicated relationships that govern how it interacts, how it tracks the different stages. Once the dispatch is done, uh, multicase has to send an invoice of the total sum to our accounting software triple text right here. Yeah, as an invoice under each project, but this is done by using Sunflow's ID as a reference point. So that's just a bit of that relationship. Now, when we are in construction, that's when people start reporting hours. As we can see here, I think people report hours on what they're doing and whatnot, and that also shows up in the underneath each project, so we can track how many hours they spend on different activities, and we also collect like different comments that they have on the different activities on the project, and we also collect their log information, where they're really on site, what the GPS said, what the GPS didn't said, whatnot. This is also visible in the. We use this to produce visualizations, for example, in the scheduling calendar, so that you can plan where people are, but you can also see um, a history of where people have been versus what they were planned. Okay, right. During this process, as you can see, we are collecting we know the address. We know the address. We know when people are clocking in. We know which time they've been assigned to, and we know what the location is, what the radius is, and all that. What we're doing as well, separately, is storing environmental data, so weather data based on specific factors such as precipitation and such. We're storing uh, topographical data. What is the we're trying to capture soil condition, but right now we're capturing the terrain type And of course, we will attempt to capture historical traffic data so that we can create a map of what the different environmental factors that go into affecting the project's completion rate is, both for KPIs and for ML purposes. Um, and then halfway through a project, when a project's most heavy 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 activity, which is usually panels, is reported as 50% or above, then we will send out a customer response survey automatically. And when the project is marked as finished as well, we will set out a customer response survey to capture how much how much how much what is it called? What the satisfaction level of a customer is. This, at the very end, we will store four kinds of data. We will store resource data, or allocation of resources, progress data, what is the different progresses reported. We will store environmental data, what different environmental factors affect the project, and we will store customer satisfaction data to create correlations between the three in our ML model. Yes, and this is done throughout these two processes right here. Our internal support systems during these processes are, yes, these are just visualization and logging tools to capture the data and store the data. And we have also multi-cases, of course, continuously used when we have visualization tools in the form of Power BI and such. The core people being working at this stage is the field managers managing the field teams, and the project managers. And controls occur routinely at this step for operational, IT, and safety departments, because there's vested interest at this stage in particular to maintain compliance. Okay. And the automations are continuously running throughout this process to finish up whatever is ongoing and not. Let's see. Multi-case, we've gone through this. This is the process flow of how the different projects are created in this early stage. You see this? The breakdown of this is here. When you set to for Deling status, what do? You create a drive folder, you create a project in Sunflow with these particular statuses. We have moving away from the offer. Like we said, we want to capture what information we had during the offer stage, but it was hard to maintain that, so we have removed that. So now directly when you're one, these changes happen in Sunflow, status changes, and in triple text information updates, right? And we support the improvement here is that we support changes. People often go back and forth. One important thing that we have experienced, which is important in any kind of ML implementation and in project implementation, is the impact of UI UX in data management and operational compliance, right? So if we have a strictly coded system that is not flexible enough to handle user mistakes or user changing of minds, then we will cause more data problems than compliance. So now we support that. You can go back from if you don't think you're one anymore, you want to go back, then we change the statuses in the different systems. And if you mark this lost, again, status changes happens, and generally we are more flexible in allowing user operations. Okay. This is a simplified version of the multi-case diagram to show how multi-case works. We have Sunflow at one end, multi-case in another. It is connected to three different kind of components: triple text integrations, payment integrations, and logistic integrations. In the middle is our automation middleware that transfer data between Sunflow and multi-case. Okay. Right. Okay. At this point, one thing I would like to remind is who are the primary responsible people at the different stages. Here, this is the sales engineers. Here is the department heads. Here and here is the project managers. Here, really, here the project manager. Here, I would say is the installation field manager. Here again is project manager. Here again is project manager, and here it gets handed over to service. Service actually follows more or less the same process architecture uh, as the rest of the company internally, because sales have certain entities called uh, assignments, as you guys are aware of, and these are more or less project entities with truncated functionality and operate just as project entities. You need to set how much expected time you use, the reported time. If you go to any of these assignments, yeah, the project planner is more or less same, much more truncated. The manpower assignment of management can just be done. Checklists that follow what people do. I can add a checklist, I guess. The same checklist available for projects can be filled out both from the app and from the system, but both from the associated app that we use, the counter app to this, and from the website. And then the status is tracked, and we use that as another data vector. And then you can order goods, and there's some details here as well, just business as usual. Now let me see. Okay. Now to measure the performance of different operators, primarily project managers and installers, we have created some KPI metrics to measure, how well they are doing, and then, based on completion rate, data entry rate, um, data entry rate, documentation compliance, and also we produce some KPIs again using those environmental data to capture what kind of challenges a project manager has during the process of their project, and to understand if impact can be had and if that should be considered in our models. Similar things also for installers, both completion rate and attendance metrics, absent metrics, and such. And what we're going to do is we're going to use NLP to extract categorization from two main areas. One is obviously the calendar, where if you look at the calendar here, you can see that they will often describe certain activities and what is expected and what not. This is helpful for us to categorize what kind of, like, during their assignments, what is the nature of their assignments, but also really in work hour report we want to see the comments that they write. We want to extract what kind of comment categorization that they're doing, especially when they're using non-billable. As we know, many of us know is an issue, where they're doing it for, they're using non-billable, but writing other things than non-billable, like driving and working on a different project. Sunflow is not working on the project instead of using app problems. Wrong usage of different activities. Okay, let me see, is there anything else? Okay, so all of the data in this system and all of the data in our triple text system goes to a data warehouse that is structured as such. The collation of the data is penned here. This is, and we have both historical tables and which updates every 2 weeks to capture historical data, and we have real-time tables for visualization purposes. Now, all of these This is going to be our main data repository. This is the data repository, and the features set therein is what is going to be cleaned, processed, transformed as needed before it is poured into the ML models. In fact, the pre-processing ML implementations like NLP will be done in this node. Yes, so the preparatory work is more or less done. The preparatory work is more or less done. Uh, the infrastructure is set up and tuned. Now, once it is fully furnished with the author and other members of the team, uh, then then the ML different ML models, initially supervised learning, but then different ML models will be used to test it to see which model works to find the target. The target being the estimated remaining time, which is shown here. The most important thing, both for management and for ML work, is estimated remaining time. We have a hard-coded algorithm that produces something. We have a human estimate based on the data entered here, but we want the algorithmic output to take into account all of these outputs, which will produce this result. And its ground truth is obviously at the time of project completion, when the project status is complete, which you can mark here. Project status is complete, then whatever total time was reported. Okay. The difference between this system, like this has actually been a 6-month process of digitalization that has changed in many ways the process flow of the company. The original process was much more chaotic. It involved Google Sheets in every single one of these steps, with and even with foreign cell calls, data updates and data coherency was low, which had caused major uh, management blunders in choosing financial decisions. For example, over ordering stocks that later turn out to not be easy to sell based on flawed understanding of demand within the company. This kind of stuff is obviously right now very much changed. We can see expected stock levels off the bat. Manpower resourcing, again, it's not based on a sheet that you don't know. It's dynamically updated and based on resources available, and it's you can see historical records of how the assignment went and how they were used and whatnot. So data dynamism is a great impact that has been had. Documentation tracking is much more easier now as well, as you can see, both in terms of is it uploaded, is it uploaded, or for in-house documentation like checklists, what the status of completion rate actually is, because we show that in a quite strong method. And of course, progress and budgeting is much more easier to maintain and visualize on an ancillary basis because of this. And communication naturally becomes much more of an easier on a centralized platform like this. Future development might include obviously UI UX enhancements to better maintain data capture compliance, which is operationally a very important thing today. And for the master's scope, right now the the the, the target is estimated remaining time, uh, probably on a regression model, but maybe on a deep learning model as well. But other areas of improvement that can be that could be attempted is on the scheduling calendar, uh, based on a multi-agent collaborative model to find, based on multiple competing interests, project managers in this case, optimal scheduling of resources. This could optimize the way we use resources even more, increase profitability and cost even more. You can do you can here you can see you can apply for leaves and such, and then you can approve or reject. And you can organize people into teams, and all of these things show up in the scheduling calendar as time off, holiday, and such thing. So that's one great area of future scope, and also budgeting. Budgeting is an area where we have a lot of vulnerability today, and using ML models to optimize budget figures can very much change, give a very, very strong market edge to this company, both internally, but also maybe on an exportable fashion. Okay, just to give you an understanding of how the company operates, which members does what where. If you guys want to understand how things are, if you have any questions, ask me now. Where does the cost/unit cost come from? If the cost is missing, how do you ask to update it? The cost comes from the budget. The cost, as I said, for goods, it comes from multi-case. For goods, we store the cost of the goods we store from multi-case. How and when is the budget used during the project lifecycle? I want to know whether they change from the Google budget sheet. Is that updated in the? Aha. When is the budget updated? That's why we have this new routine called endringsmelding. Sometimes the customer says, I want more panels, less panels, I want this, that. So they will do another in the middle of a project, right before a project, they will do another change called and that has to have an endringsmelding, a change message associated to imply that this has been done. What the routine we settle on is that they're going to write endringsmelding. Category is going to be 3000, no problem. But they're going to call it endringsmelding, I think. Oh, sorry. Yes, right there. They're going to attach endringsmelding section, so we can see that this is actually a change in the budget. Yes. Any questions? The goal is that you guys understand the domain of what is happening in the company, why things are, what things do, all of that stuff. Okay. Thank you then, guys, so much for your time and your hard work. Yes, guys.